Afternoon, Johannes, good to see you. Thank you for your time. How was the international break?
Yeah, it was good in many ways. No injuries from players being away, and I think time well spent here with the guys who was still back in the building. So I think in many ways good.
Yeah, what did it look like for all the players? Did they have some time off at any point? Or?
Yeah, they had some time off. There was training sessions here because it's not. We don't believe that 1 week off is a good thing to do. Then we have too much to catch up when they're back again. So they had days in the building, but they also had a handful of days where they were off and could just relax and recover and also have some family time and stuff like that. But we also still have to remember that it's not a lot of players we have back in the building for these international breaks. We have a lot of players who travel with their respective teams. So there's also somewhere there's not been too much time for recovery.
Yeah. So how did it work with those players? Is there a lot of sort of individual stuff that you were working on?
Yeah, individual stuff, feedback from their games. To make sure that they stay fit and ready and have a little bit more time on individual talks and to go even more into details. So yeah.
I think Mike Atanasio put something out about you guys. I know you've been to America. Tell us about that.
It was a trip that was planned a couple of months ago to make sure that we just again take the time when we have the time to do it, to sit down together and talk about the strategy and lots of things. So again, also that time well spent, and I think it was a good trip in many ways. I learned a little about baseball. I have absolutely no understanding of the game before I went there, and now I think I have probably 5% of understanding of what a baseball game is like. But it's often so much better just to sit together and talk about things, talk about what we do for now, talk about plans for the summer, talk about the long-term perspective, and just make sure that we work in the same and the right direction.
In terms of sort of the ownership and obviously speaking to Mark and things like that, does it feel especially important to you that the club is linked from all the way up there down to you and the players?
I think it's the best way to work. I think that's when there's alignment from top to bottom and everyone knows which direction we have to go, and when you have a clear strategy, you always take decisions based on that strategy, so you don't have to see everything as an individual case or an individual decision, but you can say, no, we decided that we want to go this direction, so the decision is going to be this. I think it's in many ways so much more easy. I think also then Mark's story when taking over that baseball team back in the days, that's fascinating in many ways, what they did to that I cannot say club but franchise. So I'm learning so many new things. That's interesting and that's fascinating because it again is a little similar to also what we try to do here in some ways.
I know a lot of people will be keen to know if you spoke about sort of transfers and contracts and things. So did those discussions take place?
Actually, not that much. I think, of course, transfers, all of us know that there will be probably a busy summer again in many ways, both in and out. But that was not the purpose with the trip. The purpose was more to go through how we see things going on here from a strategic perspective, from a day-to-day perspective, and where we can see improvements, where we want us to go, how they see it, and just to make sure that our decisions are aligned and everything. So, it's sometimes easy to sit here in my position and say that in many ways we have a good ownership and we have a very patient ownership and we have a ownership that has a good sense of what is needed and what is not needed. Because I think most managers or coaches, they will do that, even though it's the opposite. But I really feel that it's a good group that we have connected here, where there's a big respect for each other, and even though it's different sports, but there's a good understanding of what a strategy is and how you work together.
Yeah, I think there were some quotes from Josh Sargent earlier this week. He said that he probably would have a bit of a decision to make this summer. I wanted to ask you how that sort of affects things for you, because I know you're looking at the broader picture and the long term. Is it something that you just have to forget about for now, or does it come into your thinking?
Yeah, but we forget about it for now because but I think honestly I know that every player will think about their situation. when the season is over. Whether it's just Sargent or whether it's a player who hasn't played that much, or whether it's a player who's in and out of the team or whatever. I think everyone will do that. That's natural in football. So I think it's fair, and I think of course. End of the season for him as well. He needs to see if he should consider a next step in his career. That next step could easily be here as well. So I didn't see anything in that quote that said I 100% have to leave. So I think it's fair to understand that players will often and always have those thoughts when it's end of a season or in the middle of the season, because that's simply how they have to do it.
I suppose it's that point again of not having too much fear about players leaving, because ultimately that's the model as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the model and it's the culture. Our culture is 100% not for players who don't want to be here. Yeah. Not saying that just don't want to be here, but just overall general perspective. Then we definitely find a solution to that. I think this summer window also told everyone that if you don't want to be here, then let's find a solution. But that solution will not be just to let players go for free, which we also saw this summer. Yeah. That's we accept it if the deal is all right, and we can accept it. Otherwise, we find another solution. Yeah. And whether that's to play with another team when in training every day or whatever. But when you make a culture and when you make a certain environment like we do here, then you find out that people, some they really love it, they really like it, they really embrace it, and you also find out that some players they prefer a different way of doing it, and that's fine. That's also what I said. I think we can expect again a busy summer, and that's a part of again who we want to be. I will always prefer to be that team and that club who have players where they create some interest from other clubs, because that tells you in many ways that you have some interesting players.
And you mentioned that obviously most players are thinking about their futures and things like that, but in your experience, how much does that affect Josh specifically? Is he somebody who can deal with that quite well and not let it impact his performances?
Yeah, because the easy answer to that is just to go out and perform. I dealt with a player in my former club who really wanted to leave that summer window, but before that the window closes, there were still 6 games to play. He scored in all of 6 of them. Yeah. And then he ended up having more offers than he expected to have before that. So that was the easy answer. Go out and perform. And then you make sure that you will be the one who can select between clubs and not just have to go with the one and only.
I suppose the other 2 that people are probably looking at are Borja Sainz and Marcelino Nunez. Any progress on those sort of contract talks, or still as it was?
Yeah, I think that's for Ben, and I 100% leave that to Ben, because that's his table. I think now when we step into the last part of the season, it's just for us to make sure that we finish in a good way and we get up to our performance standards again. And I will not interfere too much with contract talks. Also, when I talk to Marcelino, when I talk to Borja, it's purely about performance at the moment. And again, my answer will be to them also: make sure that you perform on a good level. If Borja makes it to how many goals is he at the moment? 17 in the league. If he makes it to 20 or even more than that, then I think there will be some opportunities for him. But again, it will not be cheap.
Yeah. Another one who's probably thinking about his future, but probably here is Brad Hills. I wanted to ask you about him. Obviously, sent off at the weekend, but I think other than that, he's done pretty well. What have you made of his loan spell at Stockport so far?
In many ways, a perfect loan spell for us and for him, and hopefully we can have more of that in the future, because that's the level we want to loan players to. Of course, obviously, if there's options or opportunities in the Championship, then it's fine. But just that top half of the table in League One, that's a perfect environment to go and get some experience. And it's just in many ways really, really good to see Brad, because that's experience that will get him into an even better position when we start again after the summer holidays. So I'm looking forward to it.
Do you think the fact that he's starting week in, week out at the top end of League One suggests that he is ready to play in the Championship next season?
I think he is. Yeah. I think he is in many ways, and I think he will definitely be after this season. Then what we have to find out if he's ready for us, because we have a very clear way of doing things, and we have a clear set of things that our centre backs have to be able to do, and that's of course what we have to find out. So I think guaranteed he will be here in an even better shape and even more motivated to make his breakthrough here when he comes back. But we have to find out, so we have to see.
I suppose he has a lot of competition as well, so that probably comes into it. Obviously, you've got Shane Duffy, Conville, Manny coming back from Dundee United as well. So there's quite a few players jostling for positions there, aren't there?
There is, and again, there can also be players from that we're not talking about right now. That will be a part of that mix. We never know. There could also be players from that group of players that will leave this summer. You never know. So I think what we have to get to is the end of the season. Make sure that we do that in a good way. Get back here together. First day of training, know what we have to deal with, and then find out during preseason. A little bit just like we did this summer, where we rotated a lot and gave a lot of playing minutes to a lot of players.
Yeah, looking ahead to this weekend in terms of fitness, you said none of the international players got injured, but have there been any other issues?
No,
pretty much as is.
No.
In terms of the players who you maybe expected to be back, if I can just name some of those, Angus Gunn, do you think he'll be available?
Yeah.
He
will.
Lucian Mahovo?
No.
Now, how long do you think that will be?
Yeah, we still need to see with him when he's ready for training. I will not say it's too long. Hopefully, maybe start next week or late next week, something like that.
Does it feel like an important time to try to get him back fit just before the end of the season?
Yeah, 100%. Especially also with Ben being out for the rest of the season, it's important to have him back. So we hope the sooner the better. But again, he's a young player, and we also know by experience that we have to be a little bit careful here because it's a hard step to just go directly into the championship and start to play a lot of minutes, and with the intensity and the physicality in the league, it's just a very, very different league compared to what some of those young lads they come from. So we really have to be smart in our decision making here, not be carried away by that we really, really need a player for that position or whatever, because we need to think about the player first here.
And with Liam Gibbs, has he been back in training?
He's been back in training, and I think he's looking good, and I think he's he has done well in his rehab, and I think it's been easy for everyone to see here the last couple of days that he really wanted to be out there with the boys again. So it's been really good to have him back in the group. I will still say it's too early for him to play on Saturday, and ideally we want to see if we can give him some under 21 minutes before he steps into to a first team game. So we have to plan that. So that's going to be possible for him. But he's looking good, and he's with the group.
Yeah, I suppose with those game minutes, it's one where you want to be extra careful, weren't you, given the injury problems he's had before? Yeah,
exactly. It's been a tough season for him. So let's make sure, all of us, that we don't destroy the good moment that we are in now, and with him and being back again. So he knows and he understands that we have to take it step by step, and those steps are probably not the biggest ones, though a little bit smaller this time.
Yeah, and with Matej Jurasek, is he? Where is he?
Yeah, also back with the group and has been this week. So he will be around the matchday squad for Saturday. And again, one of those where we cannot expect too much from him. Already now, we need to still build him, and we could see that intensity again, the physicality again in the league is at a high level, and take some time for either young players to get used to, or players from abroad to get used to. So we're gonna build him up, but we're gonna have him around the matchday squad for Saturday.
Yeah, and in terms of having Angus back, obviously the goalkeeper department has been quite dramatic over the last few weeks. It would be nice to have some stability back there, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it means a lot, because again, I think George did well. I think Vinny did well, and I think everyone was doing exactly what we could expect from them. Dan Barden did well. It was a part of the team in one of the games as well. But it's never ideal when you start a season to see, okay, in some of the games you have to go with a goalkeeper who's not even with us in the first 6 months of the season. So that's not ideal, but it's good to have Gunny back.
And in terms of West Brom, what do you make of them?
A good team, of course. A team where obviously their season target was to be around the playoff positions, I think, and that's where they are at the moment. They can dictate the game. I think they have some good stuff going on when they're on the ball. They can rotate a little bit in positions and create problems for us with their runs in behind, but also with their crosses, which we saw last time we played against them, where we struggled a little bit defending the crosses from the wide positions. So I think they can cause us troubles, and we have to be really aware on our defensive game, which is fair to say has also been our main focus this week.
Yeah, I remember you were pretty pleased with the away performance against West Brom, but obviously it's been a lot of change for them since then. So is there anything you can take from that, or not really?
I think actually they do things in not a similar way, but there's many similarities to what they do. That they have a little bit different shape when they build up from goal kicks. They shape into a 3-man build up when they're high up the pitch. Sometimes their approach pressing on goal kicks can be man for man, and sometimes they can more sit in a block. So I think there's many similarities to what they did against us last time. The things that change is where they use the players, and that can be different from game to game, and that we have to wait and see on Saturday before we obviously know about that. But there's some similarities and of course some differences that we have tried to prepare the boys for.
Yeah, obviously you're back in front of your home fans as well. Does it feel like in these last 8 games quite a big part of it is keeping them on side and showing them what the highs of this project can be going into next season? Yeah.
It's a good point, because that's what it's all about. We will do everything to make sure that they get away from the stadium with a good feeling, with a good experience, because I think we own them that. So that will be a high priority for us, to make sure that we do everything we can, that we are aggressive, that we are intense, that we run the meters that we're supposed to, that we support each other, and there will be, because it's a good opponent we play on Saturday. It's not like a team we just can expect to win just because we are at home. So we have to do everything, and we of course on that journey Saturday need the fans as well, like they have been. I praised them after Bristol because I think it was outstanding. The performance they made for us in Bristol, and they were part of the late push in the game that we tried, and we were close to scoring that second goal, and they were a huge part of that. So I definitely think we owe them a good experience at home.
Yeah, you mentioned the defensive problems. I think we can all see the numbers are there, but in terms of why it is, what are the reasons sort of tactically?
Yeah, I think there's many ways to look at it, because when we look at the defensive stats, we are an average team in the league, but when we look at the goals that we have conceded, we're not average. We are below that, and that's of course obviously not good enough when we perform to a certain standard, but the output is below that. That should not be the case. When we look opposite at the offensive stuff, we perform on a very very high note, and having good numbers and stats in more or less all the offensive metrics, but we also goal-wise perform to that. So that's the difference, and we have looked all the goals that we concede, and we have tried to highlight some of the moments where we think we defend a little bit too individual. We have too many situations in the game where it's down to a 1v1 situation, not a 2v1 or 3v2. We have to make sure that we can cover space quick enough. I think sometimes we tend to open up the team and are not compact enough in moments of the game. And then especially some of those crossing situations we have highlighted, especially leading into the game that we play on Saturday, that we really, really have to be clear in what space and what position we cover and who's responsible for what, because it is a collective approach also defending. But of course, sometimes it comes down to the individual decision in the situation, whether you have to slide in to do a block, or you have to get in front of an opponent to win the ball and stuff like that, because it's also a thing for the you have to have the right mindset to defend. You have to do whatever it takes to defend in moments, and I think we've probably been a little bit too soft in some of the moments.
Yeah, I suppose when you lose quite a few games by fine margins, that suggests that the problem's sort of in both boxes, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say when you look at again the amount of goals that we score, amount of chances that we create, it should be enough. But of course, when I look at the goals that we concede, it's too much. It's more than enough, and that's the problem, because we can never expect to be on top on our performances every time we play. But at the moment, and especially recently, it's felt like we have to be top in everything we do to make sure that we can win. And if we just drop a little bit in our standards, a little bit in our performance, we just invite opponents in. I know it was not a good second half we played against Sheffield Wednesday. But if you look at the goals they score, they come out of situations that is, too big a mess, and situations that we simply have to avoid, especially based on such a good first half. And I think it was a little bit the same in Bristol, where they really, really punish us very hard on the two collective / individual errors we make in those situations, and then it's a completely different game we have to play. It's a game where we have to chase. So there's a lot of things going into it, but like I said, we have focused a lot on the defensive stuff, both collective and individual in this week here.
Yeah, I watched the documentary that the club put out, and something I noticed was how disappointed the experienced players were quite often when those sort of games were lost. And in those situations, is it quite difficult with the experienced players when you're in sort of a long-term project, because they might only have 2-3 years left, of their career, and they want to push for promotion at every opportunity? So is that a difficult situation for them?
It's a good question, but I think frustration will always come, and you could also hear in some of the clips that the coach was also a little bit frustrated. That will always be a part of the game, and I hope actually that will be a part of the game, no matter if you are new to the championship or whether you have been here for many years. That will be the same. Of course, it's a thing that for some of the experienced guys, they know that they probably have 1, 2, 3 seasons left to make it, or to go up there and compete for the funny positions in the league. So sometimes we have to deal with them in a different way, and that different way is for them to find another purpose of being here, and that purpose could be, to support the new ones coming up, to have an even bigger purpose than only your own focus. So that goes next to the ambition that you have as a player to, promote or be a top team in the league or whatever it is, get a new contract or whatever it is. That next thing could also start to develop some leadership skills, could also start to develop some a role in the team where I'm actually the one who supports the young ones and makes sure that they get a good step in their first part of their senior career.
Yeah, I think I was a little bit scared when I saw the Blackburn dressing room bit. In terms of obviously those experienced players as well, a lot of them in your squad have been promoted before. They've played several seasons in the Premier League. Does that almost add to the difficulty a little bit, because they've been in teams that have been better? They've probably been better themselves as well.
Yeah, I think actually we're dealing with players that are quite good at just analyzing the situation and not being too emotional in their decisions and their behavior. I obviously talk a lot with Shane and Kenny and Sarge as well. He's also a part of that group we talk a lot about, and they are more frustrated about how can it be true that in some of the games we play so good or we are so dominant and then we still get away with nothing. That I think is more frustrating for them. We have to find out what is it takes for us to make sure that we have to be able to win more games where we are on top. That creates some frustration in them. But I think they're actually quite good at being analytical and not being carried away by the moment, but seeing, okay, what was actually the bigger picture here, and what is it we can affect in different ways to be better.
Yeah, and at the other end of the age spectrum, you've got Oscar Schwartau. I wanted to finish by asking about him, because he hasn't really had much game time at club level over the last few weeks. Do you think he'll see a bit more in these last few games of the season?
It's a good question. I think it's down to probably the positions that changed a little bit for us, where the wingers for us got a little bit more inverted and played and now play a little bit closer to the 9, where it's more like a combination role, a tight space role, where when we had more wide wingers, it was more for him, more like a runner we need. So now we have to find the right position and role for him again, and that's probably one of the reasons why he's been more out than in recently. So I'll still say it's okay, because he's played far more minutes than I expected when we started this season. So for him now to be a player that can hopefully come on and impact the game at the end, that's also a good position for him to be in. But it's a good thing that you mentioned, because we have to find the role that suits him best the way that we play now.
Yeah, I'm sure you're well aware he had a pretty good international break. So can that give him a bit of confidence coming back here?
That's a big boost. Of course, the team that he's a part of, they qualified for a good competition or major competition, and they were even one man down in the game where they managed to win it. So he also had a lot of meters to run that one. So he was a bit tired today when he was with the group for the first time, which is more than fair. But definitely, because often those experiences give them a confidence boost. For everyone to represent their country is a big thing, no matter if it's the if it's the A team or some of the youth teams, it's always big for them. So 100% yes.
Good stuff. Thanks, Johannes.
Of course.
Hey Hannes, please. Do you think the break came at a good time in terms of obviously disappointing results? Do you feel a bit re-energised? Did the squad feel the same? Did a fresh sort of energy for the end of the season?
I think it came at a good time because I think we had some things we needed to go through and see if we could get some time to work out how we do, especially some of the defensive stuff that I just mentioned here. On the other side, we always have to be aware that, you know, we're training with 6-7 players in the international break. The rest are not here, so it's not like we can have a lot of training sessions where all the players are in and we can really prepare them, because that's really the first day today where we started to prepare the game for Saturday. So it's both yes and no, but I think it came at a good time. It seemed like we were dropping in, I will not say performance-wise, but result-wise, we were dropping a little bit. So probably all right that it came.
Yeah. And, you know, with reference to the results, you're now in the bottom half, you're 8 points off the playoffs. Do you still believe you can make the playoffs? I'm just interested what your expectations are for the rest of the season.
Well, I have to believe. If I didn't believe, then this should not be the role for me. I have to believe. And there's nothing in the performances and the trainings and the behavior of the player that tell me that we cannot beat the teams that are just around us. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But I'm also a realist, and I have to see that, okay, the results that we have got the last 5-6 games has not been good enough. So it also tells me that if we don't get it right against those teams, then we can also get away with 0 points when we play against them. But my main focus has been to see, okay, how can we get back on top? What can we do to make sure that the guys, they come out Saturday full of energy again and really believe that we have a chance. You know, if there's only 1% chance, then we have to go for that 1% chance. Again, like I've said a couple of times here, it will not, in my opinion, define the season, whether we make the playoffs or not. There will be many things that goes into that context with player development and team development and culture development and strategy and stuff like that. That will be a part of the context in terms of has it been a good season or not. That will not only be defined by playoffs, but as long as the playoffs are there to go for, then we should 100% go for it.
And they are there to go for, because West Brom, of course, are that team in the 6th place. So does it kind of feel like it's a must-win tomorrow?
It would be a good way to start.
It would, wouldn't it? Of course, you know, some fans are naturally going to think it's too big a gap to bridge. What can you say to them to get them excited about tomorrow? Because you need the atmosphere to be buzzing, don't you?
Yeah, that's probably the first step. If we can feel that from minute 1 of the game, that will be a huge boost for us in the game. So I think they have to just remember some of the performances, whether it's just back to that first half against Sheffield Wednesday, or is it the home game against Stoke, where we created so many chances, and you know, on the backside of that game, we talked about we should have scored 5, 6, 7 in that game based on the chances we had. And you know, it's not far away. It's only a couple of weeks or 1 month away that we performed like that. So definitely we can do it again. Definitely we can do it on Saturday, and that's the belief that they should have. But I also appreciate and completely understand that it's not all of the fans that at the moment we are in now, that they just believe that we can go out and win and win and win, and that's fair. And we just have to prove them that it can actually happen.
And you know, we have talked about this before, but is there any temptation to kind of look to the future and play some of these younger players, or are you just going to put your best team out every week with them?
I think we have that obligation to put on the best team every week, but in our decisions, you know, in game, suspensions if they happen, injuries if they happen, then I think we should come to a point where we should think about, okay, what could be valuable for us in terms of minutes for a young player or something like that. But I think when we prepare for a game like the one we have on Saturday, we are obligated to select the 11 starters that we think are the best on the day.
Brilliant. Thanks, Johannes. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.